what exercise will do. That's why I don't do it.
Well, hello, everyone, and thanks for being here today.
So good to see you.
Richard's line.
How's it going?
Anyway, we got a few questions.
You guys almost wrapped up with the preparations, or you still have quite a bit to go?
We do. We've got quite a bit accomplished. We're just about complete. We're just sort of crossing the T's and dotting the I's. But this has been another outstanding process by our scouting and our coaching staff, and we feel real good about where we stand right now as far as the work that's been done. And you know, we've got a few more things that we need to accomplish, but outside of that, for the most part, we're ready to go.
Have you ever sat down and figured out how many man-hours go into building old forts?
I haven't, but that would be a good intern project.
That's a long process, because you considering where the scouts start with and what they have to go through and all the information that they have to gather and process, and it's quite involved.
What's the level of misinformation from without that hits the public this time of year as you see this guy's going to slide or this guy's going to rise? It's just stuff planted out there.
Yeah, you know, I rarely spend a lot of energy in analyzing that part of it. I know that there's misinformation out there. We're so engulfed in just trying to make sure our process is going the way that we want it to, and to make sure we're operating on verified information. And as a result, I don't give a lot of attention to you know, the misinformation that's out there. But certainly there is, and you know, we expect that that's all part of keeping the game and the draft interesting. So,
You'd never put any of that out.
no, I wouldn't.
It's amazing. It shows the popularity of our game, though, just with everybody's interest in this. I mean, think about years ago, before they televised the draft, and how much it's changed, and how many people now are doing mock drafts and talking about it. It really just does go to show you that a lot of fans out there.
Does it make what you guys do any harder with the scrutiny and the speculation? Does it make a difference?
I don't think so.
You know, I think that comes with the territory. I think whether it's in this process, which is the draft, or whether it's in season, I mean, I think Kent said something about this the other day. As soon as the schedule comes out, people are already picking your win-loss record and where you're going to end up. And so it's, you know, listen, let's face it, the popularity of our game is what drives this, and that's important.
So at what point do the calls start to come in about trades? And is that already happening, or as you get closer to the draft, it starts to happen?
It's already started to happen. We've added a few already, but obviously as we get closer, Mike will pick up additional conversations and so forth. So, but it has already started to happen.
It's early, obviously, to fully evaluate last year's class, but by all indications, a lot of good players in that. Can you draw a conclusion that as a management, a coaching staff and all that, that there's a chemistry that you guys have developed? I mean, is it more like, okay, we really are on the same page now, or is it just year to year?
I think so. We've been doing this together for a number of years now, and I think that you got to give Rod and Steve Kime and the scouts a lot of credit for how they work, because they've got a tough job. They've got to evaluate these players based on a league grade, how they fit into the league, and then obviously evaluate them for how they fit into our football team. I mean, there's a lot of different swing positions that we're looking at as outside linebackers that may play as a defensive end, or you know, there may be a 4-3 backer that we're trying to project into an outside linebacker position, as an example. That takes work in trying to get the right grade on those players and where they fit, and then having the coaches involved and having arguments and constructive criticism and coming to the right grade so you get the right player at the right time. That's really what it's all about. And I think that it's a process, and I think Rod said it earlier, we feel very comfortable and excited about where we are in that process. We still have a few things to clean up, but the chemistry in the room is very good. Nobody is afraid to speak their opinions. You know, there aren't a lot of egos in the room, and that's an important part of it.
Can you just elaborate, either one of you, on how big this day can be for a franchise? Because like Ken touched on, when done right, it can lead to some immediate success. For example, Patrick Peterson and Sam Macho, and guys like that.
Well, it's no question. I mean, the draft is such a huge element in how we put together our team, obviously, and you know, if you're not drafting very well, eventually it's going to catch up with you. And so it certainly can have an immediate impact, or it can be one that manifests itself over time, but depending on the strength of your roster and so forth, and how quickly those young players are able to get on the field. But you know, we've been very fortunate in it, and with the players that we've selected, but it's not by accident. I do honestly believe that we have a process that we feel comfortable with, that we feel like it's been conducive to the type of character and work habits and all of the other things that we think are vital to having a successful team. We've seen those things come to fruition with the type of players that we've selected in the past.
You guys build board stuff to try and take some of the decision-making out of that day. That's why you're doing all this work now. So what's a typical, when you're on the clock with whatever pick, and what discussion is going on? Is there still discussion over which guy to take, or is it beyond that because you guys have already set up the board?
You know, as the draft unfolds, we get into a little bit more discussion there, because it depends on who you've drafted previously, the strength of our roster, you know, whether or not we should take a guy in that category that fits more of a need. You know, it's those types of discussions that we generally evolve into as the draft progresses. So the earlier in the draft, there's probably not as much of a need for discussion, maybe around 1 and 2. But as we get beyond that, we do have a little bit more discussion about the players.
A good example is last year with Ryan Williams. In our second round pick, we were looking at that, and, you know, he was on our board. There was a lot of conviction about Ryan Williams and where he should fit on our board and what kind of grade we should give him. And we didn't feel like necessarily we had a need at that position last year. And when that came up, there was a lot of discussion about that. You know, should you take him? Should you take another position where you had need? And you go with what you put all that work in to make the decision, and you go with that decision. And, you know, it's hard to say that that was a great pick, because obviously Ryan got injured, but what we saw of him in that short time really was kind of like, wow, this is why you do it. That's why you have these discussions. And I think, and what Rod said is exactly right. It depends. You never know where you're drafting, what players are available there, but there is discussion about it. Maybe not so much like Rod said early, but it depends. Sometimes there is.
Is it tension filled in there at all? I mean, not necessarily with each other, but I mean, is there a level of, I don't know, I don't want to call it excitement, just with everything on the line? Do you feel the tension coming in the room?
Well, I'll give you an example. I'd say probably the most tense discussion we've ever had was whether or not to take LaRod Stevens-Howland, who's about my height. And I'm glad Steve Kime and Coach Whisenhunt stepped up to say, Rod, you know what, this guy can really help our football team, and he has. So, but, you know, jokingly, I say that, but we do have good discussions, healthy discussions about one player versus another from time to time, but I wouldn't necessarily describe it as intense.
It's exciting. I mean, there's excitement, and there's a lot of people in the room that have convictions about those players, and that's what you want.
LaRod may take issue with the fact that I said he was about the same height, so I apologize to him.
How comfortable are you as a team going into this draft without a second round pick? Should that end up being the case?
Well, you know, again, we'll find out what happens on draft day. I mean, we would certainly like to be able to have multiple picks beyond the ordinary seven rounds, and this year we're minus a second, but, you know, we'll see what happens. You know, we may end up getting back into a second, but, you know, if not, then, we'll work with what we have and try to optimize it as best we can.
We don't talk any specifics, but can you just assess the overall talent available on the offensive line this year, particularly?
Well, I think it's a good draft. There's some talented players, not only necessarily the top players, but through the draft. I think there'll be opportunities, whether it's early, middle. You know, you never know who's going to be available at what position and how that fits with you. But at all three positions, when we're talking about offensive line, tackle, guard, and center, there's good players there that we like at different spots on the board. And you never know how they're going to come off the board. So, I mean, I know last year we liked Rob Hausler as a tight end, which was something that we needed. And we were, you know, on the edge of our seat waiting for our third-round pick to get here. We had him rated a little bit higher than that. So, you know, those are the kind of things that you face on draft day. But there's some good players at those positions.
In the college game, is it hard to slot those guys into guard or tackle in the pro game, given the way a lot of teams play in college?
Well, I think you have an opinion based on what you see, that whether you think they can play guard or tackle. I mean, some of the guys alike can transition into the tackle position. Some of the guys, whether it's a physical limitation, you know, when we're talking about a length or a height position, you may target more of a certain spot. But I mean, that's all part of the process. That's what the scouts and the coaches do so much work on as far as evaluating these guys. And that's why, quite frankly, they have the workouts in March. Because a lot of times, if you have some questions about players, you have a scout and a coach that goes to these workouts, you can put them through some specific drills where you get a chance to see that, just like you do at the combine. You know, you get an opportunity to see some of these players do those drills where you get an idea of their movement, you know, how their sets, those kind of things, and what position they would, you think, if they can transition into that.
With the